Dream Team event with all of our tribe Dream Team people on the planet. Dr. Katie Woodley, Julianne Thorne, and Pam Roussel.
Happy Monday, ladies.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everyone joining us. Any newbies here? I think we should probably just do a quick round the horn again, little intro so that everyone knows who you are, even though we have your names up this time. So we're ahead of the game there. Dr. Katie, let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, founder and holistic veterinarian of The Natural Pet Doctor. So I help empower pet parents across the world to feel confident, supported, and really empowered to utilize holistic medicine through nutrition, herbal medicine, supplements, and the emotional side, which is a big part of what we're talking about today. So super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're
Love
so
it.
happy.
I love that you make a emotional side of our animals one of the pillars of health and
Yes.
in your program. It's incredible. Pam Roussel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pam with Perfectly Holistic. I am the founder and CEO of my company, and I basically work with pet parents, mostly cat parents, and just teaching them how to provide a more holistic approach for their cats' issues, whether that be emotional or physical, spiritual, whatever. And I am a muscle testing expert, so I basically can tap into the wisdom of the body and get answers. So it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, and it is streamlined a lot for us in our labs. So we very much value your
very grateful
expertise. Julianne Thorne.
Thank you, ladies. Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne Thorne, and I am a holistic cat therapist. I am based in the UK in Plymouth, but I work with people all over the world, and I help people to reconnect and understand their cats. So I'm shifting energy myself for the last few days. So I help people with their cats, whether it's through cat chakra cleansing or cat communication sessions. I'm also a qualified behaviorist. So I've got that kind of duality of the behavior approach, but as Katie said, and as we're talking about tonight, understanding the emotions and the energy to help cats thrive rather than just survive.
I love it. I love it. And Julianne, like we just learn new things about Julianne every day. And it's like, you're just like mind blowing.
Yeah, I have to say your intro and like everything that goes into how you explain what you do, it really is like whiplash when you actually experience what you do. And Jay and I just had the privilege of a chakra cleanse with our Oliver Twist and Julianne. And it was an experience that we still don't even know how to
put into words.
Yeah.
When you say whiplash, that makes it seem a little harsh, because generally with whiplash, people have pain and then like they try to recover and they're slightly wonky. So you might want to just give a little bit of a positive of what
clarify.
It really is. I mean, when you think about you as a practitioner, I think, very obviously I always think of the herbs and, your background in behavior and just how the chakra cleanse. I'm the one that really didn't know what a chakra cleanse was. Mm-hmm. And so to really experience that and what that energy is and how you communicate, our cats are communicating through you and connect. It was just a wow moment.
Yes.
Whiplash is not the right word. It's a wow thing.
Yes.
It is a wow thing.
Our necks are fine, but
except for all the good tinglies all over.
Yeah, but it was absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for what you do. And speaking of energy, that is our topic for today.
What a great topic for a Monday, right?
Right, a great topic and for us specifically, many of you guys that are watching know, what we've been going through over the past few weeks with the sudden loss of our Pooh Bear. And this is this is actually a little difficult, as you'll see, for us to even, get under control, if you will. But the topic is energy flows where intention goes, or intention flows where energy goes, right? Like it kind of is a cyclical effect. But talking about energy and intention, our cats and ourselves, which is a very important topic. Now, let me just be honest and tell you guys where this all started. It was a few weeks back, shortly after Pooh Bear's passing. There was a troll online. We don't usually give any energy to the trolls. As you guys can imagine, we have a lot of them all the time.
Most of you guys may not even know what a troll is, but it's someone who's intentionally negative or tries to bait us by saying something really awful about us, our appearance, or one of our cats.
Yes, and this one so happened to be started out actually directed at Pam, and
Mhm.
and
No,
it was comments on an interview that she did, and they happened to mention or insinuate that Pam had something to do with Pooh Bear's passing, and that was a trigger for us. Because Pam has done nothing but, in fact, she's the reason that he was steroid free for 5 years. She was the fixer of him since 2018, 2019. So it triggered us, and we responded.
It's different when someone.
It's different when they
points it
say
at us.
something about us, and we don't care. We're
It's
like,
much more difficult when someone points it at someone who has
that we
love.
love
And has brought so much value. And I know a lot of people here have experienced the value that Pam can bring. So that it did trigger us. And I think the point of it is we usually don't. It's like water off a duck's back. Say what you want.
No
we
big
don't
deal.
even acknowledge it.
Nope.
This one we did.
Yes. And the energy turned, and the intention, like everything turned then onto us. And it went from like the troll against Pam to the troll against the two crazy cat ladies. And we were like, look at what we just did.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And thus Pam said, we should really talk about this, because Pam gave it no energy, right? You were like, no, I'm going to say she's the most zen person in the world.
I mean, it's very easy for us to get emotionally wrapped up in something that someone says, personal attacks, whether they have any validity or not. That's just part of what makes us human. I mean, feeling that range of emotions is just those are normal reactions to just being a human, So I don't tell people don't feel it. In some cases, we just need to process that, but then move on. Don't let it go. I can remember, in past years, something upset me, and it's like you keep replaying that tape in your head over and over, and for days and days, and days become weeks. And the only one it's really harming is you, because, and then, some people just can't let things go. And I don't know, it's that familiar pain that they get stuck in. And when you get stuck in that energy, it just stagnates everything. I mean, you can't forgive, you can't move on. It's consuming, and it's not a healthy place to be. So when that particular instance happened, I thought, you know what? I'm not even going to give this person my energy. And there was a second there based on a comment that was made that I almost wanted to reply, but then I caught myself and I'm like, you know what? That's giving it energy. Let's just
ignore,
move on. Send this person a lot of love, because apparently they're troubled. And
people hurt people, right?
Hurt people. So, all you can do is just kind of put that barrier and say, you know what, I'm not going to give it my energy. And, bless you. I hope you are, I wish you all the best, get some help. And that's it, cut that ties, because we don't want those cords of energy attached to us. It's just going to bring us down.
Well, I think that's so important on this topic of how difficult it is sometimes to set the intention. And I'm so excited to talk about this, because we're going to talk about the emotional side, the scientific side, the connection this has with our cats. But I do think it's also something that once we're aware of it, it does make it much easier to set those boundaries that initially seem difficult, right? Like, I think all of us are very, very open. We invite questions, we invite everything. And then sometimes, and sometimes, especially if there's a history with someone, it's like, well, that this is just a sad situation. But yeah, this makes the boundary. We're done here. It's just release and let go. So we're letting Pam kind of drive this round table today, just because it is so important. This is one of those things I think that we're all learning. It's all part of the journey. And sometimes it is our cats that really make us stop and think and set intention more so than we do. I know you were mentioning just before we went live how we spend 95% of our lives on autopilot.
Yes, we do. We operate out of 95% of what we do is done on a subconscious level. And that means what you think, what you eat, where you go, how you spend your free time. It's like we get up every day and your mind controls, what your next steps are. You imagine yourself going into the bathroom and then there you are. Then you imagine yourself in the kitchen fixing your breakfast and there you are. So your mind is directing everything you do. And we don't even realize some of the thoughts that, go into us from things we're reading on our cell phone. I mean, we pick up and we're triggered by, posts we're scrolling through or news or whatever it is that's coming into our view. And we let that dictate and control our thoughts and our emotions and our behaviors, and we don't even realize it. So that's part of the awakening process. We have to wake ourselves up and catch ourselves when we are thinking those things or doing those things, and really just be mindful and be really present. It's easy to not be present. It's easy to just be distracted by everything around you because there are plenty of distractions in life. And so when we can stop and be present and focus on right here, right now, why am I having that feeling? Why am I thinking that particular thought about that person? What triggered that in me? What does that mean? Is there something unresolved in me that I need to deal with? And why I'm so triggered by that? And it can go back to the way we were raised, something that happened to us as a child, bullied in school, whatever it might be. There was something along the way that happened to us that conditioned us to respond in a certain way. And so those behaviors develop personality traits, and our personality traits are who we are. And so we have to stop and be aware of what we're thinking, what we're doing, and why we're doing those things in order to change that. And when we do that enough times, we actually change who we are, and that can change our personality. And that determines how we, present ourselves and respond in life. And
I'm a firm believer in the power of thought, and that we can control our thoughts, and our thoughts control our emotions, right? Our thoughts control our feelings. And it does in the end by doing this regularly, it controls our destiny, right? Who said that?
Margaret Thatcher. Erin Lindy, hello, love. She said, she has a quote in her office that says, "Your life goes in the direction of your most prominent thought."
Yeah.
I think too, a big key here is that you have to be aware of those thoughts. This is where like that autopilot, and also too, what you're taking in, like Pam said, this is also why I don't have notifications on my phone. This is why I don't watch the news most of the time, because a lot of that is negativity. And if we're bringing that into our realm, a lot of times it's going to shift the way that we're thinking and what we're telling ourselves. And then we enter that fear-based like thinking, especially when we're watching those things. So once you step into this realm, become like aware of the things, you start, it doesn't mean that you're going to go through life not making mistakes, but then you go, oh shoot, like why did I do that? Okay, this is what triggered me. Okay, how can I make this right? Or how can I shift my thought process here so that I can show up better like the next time that I'm in that situation? Because like Pam said, it can go all the way back to your childhood. But here's the crazy thing. It can go back like transgenerationally too. Like our cells are like holding on to all these things. And it's just amazing. One of the best things that I found that's helpful is sitting with a journal. And, we've talked about journals before, like tracking your pet's care and health and like patterns, but also like writing down for yourself, like, how did I show up today? What triggered me today? How could I have done better possibly? Or what did I do well? What were wins from today? To turn it into a more positive mindset, which will also influence the rest of your body and your health too. And here's the other piece to this. We are the part of the ecosystem of our cats and our pets. And so when you start doing this and you start becoming more aware, we're also going to help our pets. I always say, we've talked about it, I think it's a few roundtables ago, is what energy are you putting into the food you're preparing? When we talked about, like, you know, praying over your food, giving thanks, what energy are you putting into the medicine or those supplements? Because when we go to the natural side or the holistic side, a lot of times we start getting worried or anxious if we do have to give a medicine. But, you know, I always tell people, like, switch it around and bless that medicine. Thank you for providing this resource to help my pet feel better and help them. And then that's going to also impart that positive energy onto them and help them heal even more. So, you know, it's this circle, it's constant, you know, the constant flowing of where that attention, the energy, how it's going to impact and help your cat's health too, because it's going to impact everything in your environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say that it's sometimes easier said than done, isn't
Oh,
it?
God.
I know.
think we can all agree.
Yes.
like I physically or I logically know all of this to be true. And throughout my entire life, like just watching this work out and play out, even from the troll experience, like just watching it play out, I totally know that it's true. But like right now, many of you guys know, after Pooh Bear passed, then Oliver Twist, our 19-year-old, took like a quick decline, right? Like he suddenly started acting like he was about to die of a heartache, basically, which triggered this fear in us that is still today, like it's still to this day difficult. Yesterday was actually more difficult than this morning, but some days it's super difficult for us to be like, okay, let's just stay calm. He's not dying. We don't have to run and check and make sure that he's breathing every second, right? Like it's going to be fine. You know, like, but to put that energy is to feel that good energy when you're fearful is sometimes difficult. When you say, Julianne.
Well, yeah, Julianne, I want to kick it over to you because I feel like while it is something, once we know something, we think that we're doing it, but I'm so grateful for the resources that are available to us when we realize that we're on a hamster wheel that we're both on and we can't jump off. Karen Dundee Smith is here. She helped us. She did some energy work with Oliver Twist. And we sat with him. We've never done that kind of thing before. It was 30 minutes of silence, you guys. I don't think we've ever had 30 minutes of
unless
silence
we're
in our
asleep.
lives. Right. But it really helped us start recalibrating us. That was on a Friday. On Saturday, we met with Julianne and she walked us through Twist Chakra Cleanse. I really think it's so important for all of us to recognize that these resources are there, not just to help our cats. I mean, sure, our cats are absorbing our energy, all of that, sure, but how much it really helps us. Julianne, you may need to add human therapists to your...
I do actually work with humans. Generally what happens is people will come to me, I'll do a chakra cleanse with them and give them their cat's feedback. And then part of that, I do 4 sessions with the humans as well to help them shift their energy and emotions, because it is, as you all said, it's all connected, you know. And for anybody who thinks that we're perhaps talking a bit woo-woo when it comes to energy and emotions and things, you know, everybody has walked into a room at some point and thought, oh my God, you know, someone's had an argument, or you can sense the tension, as we call it, right? That's what our logical brains say, it's tension. That's energy, you know, so we can all feel it. And as the ladies have said, it's just a question of being conscious about it, whether you're conscious of what you are thinking and what you are feeling. So I can't remember who it is. If somebody knows who gave this quote, it's definitely not me, then please pop it in the chat. But somebody said that thoughts are the language of the mind and emotions are the language of the body. And if you think about those two things, you know, that we're speaking two different languages, but so often our heads are so loud and the thoughts are so prominent that we forget that we have the capacity, as you said, ladies, to sit with your body for half an hour, to sit with a journal, like Katie mentioned, you know, Pam said about being mindful. We talk about this, as we've said in other lives, it is really key to be conscious of how you are, because, you know, when you walk into a room, you could bring that tension, let's use that word because people are familiar with it, to your cat, to your house, to your home, to your family, you know. And you mentioned about the about emotions, and this isn't us saying to all of you that are watching, you know, thank you for being here with us. But we're not saying like you've got to be positive all the time.
Mm.
It's not about that. You know, there is a range of emotions and they have different frequencies. Like this is the science bit, and don't quote me on who like the actual tests and things, because I'm not great for remembering that kind of stuff. But when it comes to emotions, like joy vibrates at a higher frequency than like fear. So, you know, I do it like this because it's like a scale, and joy and gratitude and love and peace are up here in terms of how light the frequency is, how quickly they vibrate. And then down the bottom, you've got fear and sadness and guilt and judgment. And there, and like I said, that's when you walk into a room and you feel it, because there's anger. You can feel it in the room. It's dense, it's heavy. So when you're working with your cats, when you're with your cats, what are you bringing to them? Katie's just really like shocked me a bit, because she about the medication. You know, when you're giving your cat medication, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And whenever I give Leo his asthma inhaler, I'm like, oh, buddy, it's okay. I'm really sorry. We've got to do this. I hope I'll make you feel better. I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, sorry. I'm like, ah, crap. Oh.
It's fine.
It's okay.
It's all good. You're in good company.
I'm like, oh, darn. I need to reframe that. You know, I really need to reframe that, because sitting with him and putting this medicine in his body is meant to help him. But if I'm already sitting down before we've even put the medicine in his body and putting him in like a victim state and having this, oh, poor you, that's not going to help. That's really not going to help, you know? So there is definitely a piece about consciousness or awareness that I think is really important. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the swearing.
You know, like Kate, we're on the same boat, Julian. Katie's words triggered me too, and I was like, because you know we're now giving our Oliver Twist, Mr. Twister, fluids, and yesterday was very difficult because it's like, okay, we want to catch him when he's laying in a certain place, or we want to, you know, like,
we want to be calm and comfortable, and
we want him to be calm and comfortable. But then we kind of come at it as like, okay, we can do this. We can do it. We got this. We got this. Not like, you know, bless this. This is going to, you know, this is going to make you feel so much better. I'm so glad that we get to do this. I'm so happy to be in your family. And it takes two of us in this home. Okay. We're not veterinarians. It takes two of us to do this.
Two with me too. Don't worry. Depends on the cat, right?
Right? I mean, to get on the same wavelength, and maybe we should start like saying a little mantra or a little prayer or something beforehand, so that we can make it a little bit easier on him, because he picks up on that energy even when he's just laying there asleep and we're like, okay, you've got treats and everything's going to be okay. He's like, what are you guys doing? Get away from me.
Just the way that we walk
because
in
of
the
our
room.
energy.
Exactly like you said, Julianne. I mean, I think that it's easy, and I want us to all kind of think about this comparison. If you have someone that's close to you, like Jay is close to me, if Jay wakes up in a bad mood, or if something happens in her office that's like a stressful thing, I feel it. She doesn't have to say anything to me. I know that like shit has shifted, right?
Right.
So, and I think about how much, I think cats are far more intuitive and aware than we are, really. So I think about bringing that energy, you know.
I can hear that.
Can hear.
Do you know what I did? Sorry, go on. No, go on.
No, that's it. That's all I was going to say.
Do you know what I did the other day? I was on the bed with Leo. He was looking out the window and I was looking at him and I was thinking, oh my goodness, you're so handsome and I'm so blessed to have you. And I could see his whiskers moving only on the side that was next to me. I'm like, okay, that's fascinating. And then I was like, I'm going to just test something here. And then I was thinking about something that is making me really angry at the minute. And his whiskers actually went rigid and went forward. So I'm lying on the bed, not saying a word, just thinking angry thoughts, thinking of the thing that's making me angry. His whiskers went rigid and forward. And I was like, right, okay, maybe that's just a fluke. Maybe there's just a change in the air current in front of him. And I went back to thinking about him. And in my head, you know, sort of saying, you're so beautiful, you're so handsome, I'm so blessed to be with you, I'm really thankful I'm your mummy. And his whiskers came back and then like moved again. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I've literally just seen the energy move. I've literally just witnessed him feel my thoughts.
Yeah,
it blew my mind.
Back to frequency. You know, you've seen those experiments where they're like, everyone's thinking something grateful and water molecules will look like, it's really a fascinating thing. And you mentioned it's kind of the new,
Science.
and Julianne too, you've got, I think, a book to share. We should probably drop that in the chat as well.
I'll
But
put it in the chat. Yeah.
the scientific part of this. I mean, I think we all talk about it as woo woo. It's still something that's woo to us.
But there's so much truth and like proof
Science.
behind this, like science behind energy and how it works. And that water test, I remember that you guys probably, it was like viral on YouTube. So probably the majority of everyone in here today has seen it. Where they, you know, they put certain thoughts, like they said certain thoughts over it. Was it water or was it rice?
It was water.
It was water.
Yeah.
Masuramoto. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me more about it, because I'll butcher it.
Okay. Well, basically what they did was they took water, and a couple different types of water. They took like fresh water, and they played really loud, you know, ugly rock type music that was just, you know, and then they also played classical music, and then they looked at the crystals that formed in the water, and they were starkly different. Like the ones that were the classical music were beautiful crystal formations, and the ones that were the loud banging rock music was just like ugly, you know, dark, you know, didn't have much of a form. It was just totally opposite. And they also did the same thing with like the water from the river. I think it was a river in China that was just, you know, polluted or whatever. They did the same thing with that type of experiment, and the water changed. They've also taken just words or water and just spoken words over them, like I love you, you're beautiful, all the wonderful, you know, feel good energy words, versus the I hate you, you're ugly, you know, all the negative. And the crystals were 180-degree difference too. So from beautiful crystal formations to very ugly, dark, you know, it's striking how just the energetics of words and thoughts manifest into something beautiful or something ugly.
Yes.
They did that with plants too. So they showed a group of like school kids, I believe it was, and they had I think it was two plants, and they had one plant that the kids would speak to it with like kind words and encouragement, and then the other plant was all like hatred and really like mean words were thrown at it. That plant died. Like they were both fed the same amount of water, fertilizer, all those other conditions were exactly the same, except for the energy that was put upon those plants. So that right there too, like the water, we're all frequencies, right? Atoms, we're all made up of atoms, and these frequencies are going to directly impact what happens to us. And the other thing too, which, you know, comes back down to the science, which is like a newer field of study. I saw someone talk about like depression and it being so hard to get out of. And I'm not going to diminish depression. You know, it is a very real condition. And it is something to not take lightly. And however, what we're finding with a lot of the research being done is that because of that gut brain access and because of our thoughts and the intentions that we have, it can directly impact the microbes that live in our gut. And it can also impact the amount of like the immune system and the inflammatory mediators and the cells that are being produced. And that alone can, like, if you're thinking about like what's being produced in the gut, serotonin, that neurotransmitter, 90% of that's being made. And if we start shifting the way we're thinking, the intentions that we're setting, it can directly impact and support and help heal the gut lining, and vice versa. If we look at our gut, so if you're like, why do I feel not good? Or why is my cat suddenly had a behavior shift? And maybe they just had a round of antibiotics and you're noticing that they're acting different. This is where we can take a step back, look at the bigger picture and go, maybe that affected their microbiome. And that's why we're seeing a change in the behavior. And so we can manipulate the gut through like a fecal transplant, support it with, you know, proper diet, species appropriate food, probiotics, digestive enzymes, and repopulate that, calm down the inflammation because of that gut brain connection. A lot of times you see your pet go back to their normal like personality and their self. So the same thing's happening for our pets as it is for us too. So just another big like, whoa, this is amazing how interconnected we all are. And then also too, the science behind a lot of this woo-woo, right? It's not just magic. There's reasons why this occurs, which is so cool.
That's what's in the woo woo bit. When the why woo woo works, it says the surprising science behind meditation, Reiki, crystals, and other alternative practices. I got the book because I love like woo woo, like spiritual things. I've got a degree in psychology, but I also have a degree in chakra healing. So like I've got the kind of logical science brain part of me, and sometimes I'm like, did that really happen? Is that real? Like I do question things, but the Why Woo Woo Works book has exactly that. Like Katie said, it's got the science behind it. It talks about we are electrical currents, we are atoms and things, and that moves and shifts and can be affected by things, sounds, and it is really fascinating, and I think it's a shame that like woo woo gets dismissed as being, do you know what I mean, like this kind of, I don't know, second rate. Yeah,
well,
like
it's not real, like
this,
on the vet side and on the human doctor side, right? Like it's constantly dismissed. Like I hear it all the time, oh, she's a woo-woo doctor, and I'm like, no, like there's a reason why this stuff works, and it works a lot better than what you're doing. So this is why, but we all get dismissed for it.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example of how your emotions can control your health. 2 examples actually recently here. So when Pooh Bear passed, and then of course we were grieving pretty hard, and then Twist took a turn for the worse. I got this random weird cold sore that popped up on my lip in a place that I've never had a cold sore pop up before, and it was I was like, oh, this is stress. This is my body reacting to my emotions right now. Like that's what's going on. And then you look at Twist and how the grief that he was going through, and or still is, I'm sure, going through, how that affects how he, like, his health just like went on the decline immediately because of his emotions, right? And because of our emotions that we were also putting on to him. And yet in the past, week, I guess you'd say, other than just giving him fluids, he's not on any medication. We're making some woo-woo tea for him, which is good, has some good herbs and things like that. But we're taking him outside. We're really focusing more on his enrichment and on our intentional our intentions with him, right? To not necessarily, how we always say that we're trying to make we just want every cat to live the longest, healthiest, and happiest life possible. Well, Pooh Bear kind of threw the long part for a loop with us, right? Like we really just want our cats to live the happiest and healthiest lives possible, because we don't know when they're going to go, right? And that intention Twist is running around the house. Like he has
good days and bad days.
He does.
But I think, real quick, and I see Anna is here. I love you, Anna. Also lost one of her babies very suddenly. I think it's kind of like a spiral, right? There's this grief, but then there's this worry. And, we spend a lot of time going, are they napping? We wait to see if they're breathing. And then you realize how much time you spend every 10 minutes going head count, checking on the babies, like the fear just kind of catapults you in a different way. And I think, between the energy work and the reading that we did with Karen Dendy Smith, and working with Julianne Thorne and doing that chakra cleanse, because we went from grief to just instant worry about Oliver Twist, because we saw that and we were worried. Now our intention is set on joy, right? Like we're doing things, Dr. Katie, you mentioned the whole like medication, I got to give this to you so you feel better. Now we're trying to do things with the intention of joy. We are going to be present in this moment. Sissy, our executive director, we rescheduled our meeting this morning because Oliver Twist wanted to go out when he wanted to go out. And
yesterday we realized that even though it was our intention to throw a Super Bowl party with our cats, and we were going to have everybody come out at Super Bowl time, set up the television outside and do all this stuff and things, they wanted to go out earlier. And we're like, wait a second. Well, he didn't want to go out at Super Bowl time. It was like, we had to force him to go outside. So we were like, okay, now we're doing it on his time.
But it does. It's shifting the energy of what Pooh Bear is really teaching us is present, is to, not live in the worry, but live in the moment. And, he did teach us that we can do all the stuff and things, and sometimes when it's time, it's time. So why live in that frequency? Instead, do things with intention and make that intention being present and joyful. And it is more difficult than I think
Some days.
Right. Because Twist is having obviously better days than some days. And that is because he is 19 years old and he's, You know, that's just a reality. But our intention and our frequency can be better. The intention can be better set. And we're seeing some of that, and we're experiencing it ourselves, being present and more joyful. I want to mention too, Julianne dropped the
Links.
Did you drop the link for both books?
Both of them, yeah.
The names, yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
What's the name of the other book?
The other book is called The Divine Matrix. I'm about halfway through, and it's very deep, I would say. So the why woo woo works is great. It's broken down into really easy to read chapters. It's got really simple kind of evidence and science to back up things. Whereas the Divine Matrix is a bit more deep. Is, you know, how we're all connected, how, you know, things impact others, how you need to be aware of yourself, and very much like you guys were just saying, you know, where you are in the moment is what impacts your future. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, we are all human as well. You know, so our brains are wired to protect us, to be on defense in case the dinosaur hits, or, you know, whatever it may be. So like we are wired to fear and to be in like a risk averse state. So like you've got to recondition, you've got to rewire, and, you know, going right back to what Pam said at the beginning about being mindful of that. And you know, you just have to be kind to yourself, and which we've said before, take it a day, sometimes an hour at a time, do what you can, feel what you can, and be aware of whatever you can, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Beverly said, wait, I'm human. Yeah, the
Yeah.
human condition.
Exactly. I think one of the most powerful things we can all just remember to hold is gratitude. Gratitude like has such a high vibration. So if you are finding yourself being triggered, if you're feeling really sad or upset about something, try to, you don't have to like just like shut down, but just like stop and be aware and try to figure out what's triggering you, and then shift by just taking a few moments and just sit, like you said, and just think about everything you can be grateful for, and don't think about anything else. And I did this exercise like sometime in January, because Hershey came to me one day and said, I just want you to sit and be grateful. List out everything that has happened to you in the past year that you can be grateful for. And I'll tell you, that meditation session took about 45 minutes, because it took me that long to go from a whole year of everything that happened, every person I met, every event that I did, every aspect of friendship, business, moving, whatever. That list was so long, and I can't even begin to describe to you how high my vibration was at the end of that session. I felt like my heart was going to explode. And I know we talked a little bit about this before we started offline, but Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of my faves. I know Katie's too. He has so many great books, meditations, online talks that you can tap into on his YouTube and Rumble channels, and just listen to some of his stuff. He does bring in a lot of the science. I mean, he's a neuroscientist. So they've done all these studies that track the development of the brain and how you can rewire yourself. It's incredible. It's powerful. But he talks a lot about gratitude and just getting your heart center in the right place, because that shifts everything. It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, it absolutely does.
I was going to say with Dr. Joe Dispenza, Pam, if you could drop the name in the chat, I think Jennifer asked.
Yes.
His story of how he came to be. He was a chiropractor, and he was training for, I think, like an ultra marathon or something. It was bike ride. He was out on a training bike ride and got hit by a car. He broke his back and he couldn't walk. And so he literally like healed his body laying on a table for months at his friend's house, meditating and visualizing his spine healing. He did not have surgery. He walks just fine. Like that is the power of the energy and setting that intention. Like that is how incredible. And he does, you know, workshops across the world where he brings people together to meditate together. And this is where like This is the crazy thing when you hear about like spontaneous remissions, people healing themselves, walking again, being able to see. That is the power of this energy that we're talking about. Like, that's not just something just happening, right? It's not, they say miracles, right? That is you thinking and setting that intention and putting that energy where you are setting that intention. And it's so, like, I get goosebumps, right? Like, that is how powerful it is like, and it's not always easy, right? We're not all walking around doing that. And it's a constant thing every single day, right? Even for all of us here becoming aware of it. But once you start becoming aware of it, it's those steps forward. It's just like what we always talk about, like, what's the one thing? What's that step that you can take today? What is that journal you can write? And what are your 3 wins for today? Sitting down and, feeling gratitude, like Pam was saying. And what is that journal you can write? And what are your 3 wins? I'm echoing. I don't know why.
No, it's me. I'm trying to drop the comment. I can't do it. I can't do it with a lie.
Your higher self is calling.
I was like, I don't know what's happening. It's okay.
Maybe Marissa can drop the name of Dr.
Well, Belladonna, you have it right. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's how you spell it.
Oh shoot. Yeah, you're right. Oh yeah, you can't do it. Oh my God.
Can't do it.
Okay.
Can't do it.
Like, you can't do it.
I'm on it.
It goes live. Sorry about that, everyone.
To Katie's point, though, it is like exercising a muscle. I have to say, there is no way the first energy session that we did with Oliver Twist, which helped shift us, and it was the first time we heard Oliver Twist snore since his best snuggle buddy left. Like, he went into a deep sleep for the first time since Pooh Bear passed. And for us, I kind of think of it as like supervised silence, right? Like, Jay and I couldn't have pulled off 30 minutes being quiet, sending intention to Oliver. Like, we couldn't have done that without some supervision from Karen, for sure, right? But I think about that now. The other day we were running some errands and it was like, what do you think? I could just tell Jay was off. She's like, I don't know why, I just feel really stressed. Like, taking the time, we think so often that we don't have time to, what am I feeling? What is this about? Like, let's set an intention. Let's spend some time in gratitude. We spend so much time focused on the trauma and the fear and the whatever. We realize, oh my God, we're not even thinking about what we're grateful for. These beautiful beings that we have in our lives that are also going through a loss. We're not being grateful for Oliver Twist. We're not being grateful for Friday and Zorro and Jack and Madison. Where did that go? Like, it just went away because we were on this hamster wheel.
But that's why
we like exercising a muscle.
Exactly. But that's why we normally stay so happy and so upbeat. Everybody's like, you guys are so happy. You guys are so, it's because at the end of the day, the thing that we love to talk about the most is how grateful we are, where we came from, where we are today, where our business is, where our cats are, like everything, like
silver lining in something that was weird or wonky.
It's our favorite thing to discuss is our gratitude of just life in general, right? Mm-hmm. And as soon as all this happened with Pooh Bear, we didn't realize until at the end of last weekend, when last weekend was just like when is he going to die? Like, we were just like so dark, fearful. We were like, what is, like, it was, I think Sunday night, maybe it was Monday night. And we were like, where did we've lost our gratitude. Like, that's what we've lost, like, why that we're just staying in this negative energy. We're staying in this negative spot instead of lifting ourselves out, instead of counting our blessings. And that's why, that's going to be the shift. And it was the shift. I mean, like, it literally has changed Oliver Twist's life over the past week, is making that shift. Right. And you guys see it in our stories, you guys see it in our posts, like where he was to where he is even today.
But it's about making that effort, to Dr. Katie's point. And it's about recognizing and accepting help from the resources around us, where we can definitely recognize we don't have it within ourselves right now at this moment to pull something like this off. But we have these beautiful resources like Karen Dendy Smith, like Julianne Thorne, like Dr. Katie Woodley, like Pam Roussel, that can stop and help us stop and really look at things more beautifully, for lack of a better way of saying it, but like really help us recalibrate and it really compounds the gratitude.
Yeah. And back to then what I think Dr. Katie said about who you surround yourselves with too. Like that is a huge thing when everybody's, you hear it all the time. You are who you hang around. And yet many of us go on autopilot and don't even pay attention to who it is that we hang around. And we end up, bitching about who we hang around all the time, instead of making that shift and spending more of our time and energy. Sure. I mean, we can't not spend time with our parents or, somebody a cousin that, comes, but we can minimize that, right? Like it doesn't always have to be, we don't always have to.
What are you saying about your family?
Fine. I'm just saying, if you have a negative person in your life that is a part of your family or is a part of, you can't necessarily cut them out altogether. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if you spend more time with more positive people like you, lovely ladies, and spend more time with people who uplift you, then your energy shifts. That helps your energy shift as well.
Energy. It's the ripple effect.
You got to make a choice. Like Katie said, it's about what you don't listen to the news. Because if it's always miserable and depressing. So if you want to read something, then read articles from people, like Joe, like we've mentioned. Find people on Instagram that lift you up. And listen and absorb that. Feed your mind with good food. Because if you watch the news, listen to the news, it is just a perpetual darkness, misery, and whichever format that may be. There's something called the Good News. I think it's US based. Good News. I get an email every day, and it's 5 cool things, 5 good news articles, and some of them are really bonkers. But it's it always makes me smile, And so think about what is your input, because that makes a real big difference. And if you've got family, friends, co-workers, whatever that have denser energy or lower frequency vibrations, minimize your exposure to them. And if you do spend time with them, do something that lifts you up after. I talk about a sparkle jar. Everyone's got a jar of sparkles, and some people will take out of it, and some people take scoops out of it, and other people they'll just blow a little bit out of it. But you've got to manage this jar. You've got to manage this jar of sparkle, of energy. So who puts sparkle in your jar? What puts sparkle in your jar? Is it a walk in nature? Is it face planting your cat? It's one of mine, baby Max. Is it cooking something? Is it what is it? What puts sparkle in your jar? And you need to be mindful of how full or empty this jar of sparkle energy is, because it's your choice how that feels, how full that is. Right? It's your choice.
I love the sparkle
jar.
Are you not said that before? I said that all the time.
A sparkle jar.
I love that.
I've never had sparkles, and now I'm not gonna be able to get that out of my head. Sparkle jar.
But it's a great way to put it, I mean, as you were talking, I'm something that I haven't done. We've been ordering so much food lately, and crap food for the most part,
comfort food, right?
Comfort food, right? Which isn't really comforting, because for me, I like to cook, and that is something that actually adds sparkle to my jar is when I cook, and I
that adds sparkle to my jar too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Sissy does too. I love sparkle jar.
You're welcome.
I think what's also just important, to go back to the title of what we talked about or setting the show, is that what you focus on is where your energy goes.
Yep.
So if you want to draw more positive, happy vibes, if you want to feel more uplifted, then that's what you do, things that bring that to you, and know that it just the opposite applies. So if you are always looking at stuff that brings you down, that puts you in a fear state and makes you, constantly thinking, talking in your head, just that negative stuff, you're going to keep attracting more and more of that to you. So we've got to be mindful of where our intention, where our attention is going. What do we want to attract? Because if it's something positive, we're going to keep attracting that. But if it's not, if it's something negative, we're going to keep attracting that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been interesting knowing that, Twist is older and stuff. Right now, I feel like this responsibility. I think a lot of us probably, we make better decisions for our cats. It's oh, they're going to eat a good diet, but I'm going to eat the crap food. They're going to whatever. But I noticed even this morning, Monday morning, a couple things thrown at me, and my energy was off, just like a little bit like, right? And up the stairs, and I was like, oh, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Like, I don't want him getting the frequency, right? Like, shift. Like, what the reality of this? Be intentional about what I'm thinking and recognize that whatever it was that I was slightly frustrated at is not how I'm going to spend this day. And it's not what I'm going to, it's not the frequency I'm going to give to any of my babies, you know? Being sometimes it does take something outside of ourselves, I think, because this is about our decisions and our boundaries and our choices and all of that, and how not only it affects us, but really that ripple effect to everyone around us, but also to our cats that can't actually say, hey, you're having a bad day, what the hell's up with that? It's heavy, dude. It's heavy.
Yeah.
I think too, one of the things you just said there is really important. We can't pour from an empty cup. And so we need to also take care of ourselves. And this is where, you know, being aware of that energy and the intentions we're setting, but also too, you know, both, you know, Jay and Adrian, you mentioned like the comfort food, right? Like, do I feel better when I eat this? Usually you get like a hit of like oxytocin, right? Really short, and then you feel like crap after, right? And then you're like, I don't even feel good now. And now I'm just like, and it like is this perpetuating cycle. And so it's, you know, we don't have to do these massive overhauls, but it's all about creating more awareness, creating like what is going on. Okay, what can I choose that will like uplift me so I can uplift my cats? And just being aware more of those choices that we're making every single day. And it's amazing once you start thinking about those things. Like I said, we all make mistakes or we stumble backwards and sometimes find ourselves in these little spirals. But then it's like, oh, shoot, like I was triggered there. How can I resolve this? You know, what can I do differently the next time? Okay, I can eat better next time. Okay, with, you know, your energy that morning, I woke up and I felt like crap. And I'm like, okay, what can I be grateful for right now? Because this is like sometimes, like honestly, like to be totally transparent, sometimes I'll go outside after having a long day and I go for a walk with my husband. He's like, what was good about your day? And I was like, the sun is out. Like I have a house. Like, and so sometimes it's like that basic, right? Where you're like, it's warm. I'm not homeless. And then you start going, oh my God, like really, I have so much to be grateful for. But sometimes you have to start down here and then build it, right? When we have those really rough, hard days. And I think that's very important for everyone here. Like, it's not like we're these higher beings that we're just vibrating at these high frequencies. I'd say Pam probably, but like, but it's like, you know, it takes practice and we all have bad days and we're going to go through things in life that make things hard, right? Like losing Pooh Bear, you know, going through personal experiences at home, you know, losses of people, losses of pets, like losing jobs, like things can get really hard. But when we break it down and we start looking at, okay, well, what is something I can be grateful for? And then your energy will shift. You set an intention and then you start going back up, right? We start growing again. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a massive overhaul. It's just one thing at a time.
And it's not all the time, right? It's when you can do it, like just like you said, like when you even if you've got to start with the real simple things, like it's daytime. Woo! I like the daytime.
I woke up today. Sometimes that might not feel like a blessing, but I did wake up.
There's a I'm all about the book today. The book called I think it's Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. I'll check the name and I'll pop it in the chat after. It's by my bed. I've got so many underlines in it. And the woman talks about, you know, whatever you feel in this moment, what can you do to elevate it? Like one rung, one piece, one bit, right? So if you are angry and also like, let's remember the emotions that you feel, the denser stuff, you have to feel it. You can't ignore it. You can't push it to one side. Any emotion has to move through you. It has to go through all of the chakras. It has to go through and it has to come out. Energy is emotion is energy. You know, emotions have to move through you. So if you're feeling grief, you're feeling angry, you're feeling lost, feel it. You know, sit with it and lean into it, because you can't ignore it, because that's when it gets blocked and stuck and then manifests as something physical, you know.
And I like how you said too, Julianne, that spectrum, right, of the frequencies of joy and gratitude versus fear and anger and all that. And I think just that knowing that there is this spectrum and recognizing just how much more control we can have, exactly like you said though, about moving through things instead of bottling them up basically, or trying to ignore
Yeah.
them. I think that that's been a big lesson for us as well. Just having the opportunity and the resources that help us move through something. Like I shared with Jay, and I may have shared it with you guys, you know, we've lost years ago, and you know, you're working a really busy day job, and it's like you don't have the time to stop and grieve. You have to like flip the switch and go do this and go do that and be this for these people and do this and do that. And it's like, but then it keeps coming back. The energy has to go somewhere, right? So just being aware of moving through the spectrum, I guess,
Phases.
and
Yeah.
and just being present with where you are and moving, setting that intention to move.
And you're not going to go from like you're not going to go from like anger to gratitude like that. Like that's not the way it works, right? Wouldn't it be great if it was? I mean, God, I'd be pooping rain unicorns right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be great. Like, that's not the way it goes.
I would be pooping unicorns.
That's not the way life is, right? Life is hard at times. So, you know, in those dense times, what can you find to, you know, make you smile or to lift you up a little, even for just a moment? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I say form a new habit or exercise a muscle, and being just mindful of that.
Right. Well, I mean, I say that maybe what we should all do is whenever we do feel like we're in that space and we want to get out of it, just think about like pooping unicorns. Because
I do wonder if I should come and join the live tonight or not. I'm not convinced it was a good idea.
I think it was.
It was perfect for me. That's
unicorns in my sparkle jar.
Well, if anything, it will make you laugh. Let's raise your vibration.
You know, I mean, that is actually, so some of these simple things are things that I have learned along my journey. Back in the day, I dealt with depression in a very, very dark way. And one of the very small steps that I learned, I don't know if it was from a book or a therapist or what, but it was like physically make yourself smile in the morning, physically make yourself smile for like 1 minute. Just like, even if you don't feel like smiling, literally do it. And then if you don't feel like it and you look in the mirror and you see yourself smiling and you're like, then you laugh, and then it's a real smile, right? Like, but little things that you can do for yourself to help uplift you. You know, I always say dance does it, right? If I can just like, if I just bust out in a dance, it will lift my spirit just a little bit.
Okay, so we've got like 2 minutes left. Let's go around the horn. Something that you guys each do that,
because I've given my 2 cents.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Julianne.
I think I said enough.
Pooping unicorns. And her intended
that's me done. Mic drop.
Yeah.
That was a mic drop. I think that's gonna stick with all of us forever. I can't. Oh, thank you for that,
Dr. Katie.
You know, one of the things that's really helped me is at the end of the day, just writing 3 wins in my journal. What were 3 wins from the day? And like it said, it could be my house is still standing. That's a win. But just writing that down and feeling the gratitude for it right before you go to bed. So you're setting the intention when you go to bed that good things happen to you.
I love that. I love that. Pam, how do you stay so zen all the time? What are your...
Well, I do kind of the same thing Katie does. And I got that from Dr. Mercola. I heard that in an interview. He, every night, what are the 3 things he is most grateful for that happened to him today? And so I started doing that, and it's so powerful. But the other thing I just wanted to say, and it's hard, but people, if you can start to shift your awareness and shift your thinking, another podcaster that I follow, Michael Jaco, always ends his shows by saying, stay in that love vibration. And if we can get our hearts in that love vibration, even when we're upset with somebody, somehow finding some way to send them some love will destroy any kind of ill will. It will destroy negative emotions. So if you can stay in that love vibration, it keeps your vibration high. And you have less tendency to be sick, and people sucking the energy out of you and all that. So, and that will obviously help transition to your household too. Just keep that love vibration high.
Oh, love it so much.
I love it.
You guys make that very easy right now on a
Yes.
Monday morning.
Yes.
I'm just so grateful for you guys, for what you do with your lives, how you guys have set an intention to do your life like you're doing your life, and you bring such light and such joy to all of us. So
Yes.
I'm so
So-
grateful.
Well, we feel the same way about you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oliver Twist
Oliver
just
Twist
jumped
just
up right
came up.
here.
No,
Oliver.
it.
You have the
Open that
love
window for you.
vibrations, baby.
Yeah.
To you.
Oh, my sweet boy.
Oh my goodness. Did you want to come up and say hi?
Did you want to come say hi?
Do you want
Well,
to come
come
say
in.
hi? I was going to close.
Sister.
Just a second. You might. Ah, yes, my love. He's
Wanna
like,
come say
grab
hi?
me. He's like, pick me up. Yes, my sexy man.
Say hi.
Oh, it's Twister.
Yes.
Hi, buddy.
But I love you so much.
Oh my boy.
Oh, sweet angel.
Such a sage, this little man, ain't you?
Yes, you are. Goodness. Okay, so thank you guys all for joining us on this roundtable episode, and thank you, ladies, so much. So many people in the comments. I saw. I needed to hear this right
Marilyn.
now. This is exactly what I needed to start my week. So thank you for
Thank you,
this
guys.
subject, and thank you for your insight, and thank you all for being so beautiful. And that goes to all of you, everybody watching and listening as well. So we love you guys so much. We'll
Happy
see you next
Monday.
month with another roundtable and a great subject as well. Mwah. Happy Monday, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.